Welcome back to Calvary Life. This is the podcast of Calvary Baptist Church, and anybody out there who would or wants to know about local church life, we're glad to be back with you. I'm Charles Uptain.
Hey, I'm Paul Thompson. I like the way you say welcome back. So
Yeah,
you're
like
assuming they've been here
just
before.
hanging with us,
And
and
you just can't wait to get another one of these.
well, you know, we have an audience that is just committed to us. They're here every week. So today, Paul, what I thought would be a good conversation, because we had a good event Sunday night, or at least I did, and I'm going to ask you about it. We had a after church, church-wide meal in the Fellowship Center, and just had a good time with the church family. So I thought it was a good time to just hang out, and there seemed to be some good conversations and things like that going on. So I want to talk a little bit about fellowship tonight or today, and what that means to us.
Yeah, good deal. In the old days, what we did Sunday night would be, that would be textbook church fellowship, right? That's what we describe it. And of course, that's what people assume it's going to be. It's going to be people sitting around tables eating, that sort of thing. There's no fellowship without food in our church culture. But I thought it was good, and then I thought some parts of it maybe not as good. I think there's some lessons that we probably still need to learn, and some benefits that we're not exactly reaping from the platform, I guess, that offered us. There's some opportunities there. There were some things that were sort of like low-hanging fruit that we could have grabbed, that I think maybe some folks are missing from that sสort of fellowship.
Yeah, and I pulled a definition from a biblical dictionary, a Bible dictionary, Baker Bible Dictionary, about what is fellowship. And when it talks about biblical fellowship, it's the common experience or sharing with someone else. Very simple. But also it says true biblical fellowship between believers is an outworking of their fellowship with God through the gospel. And that really got me thinking about, we use this word pretty regularly, fellowship. We kind of, it's one of those church words, fellowshipping with each other. But really, do we think about really the beginnings of that, and that it's more than just even our relationship with one another, that where that fellowship began is with God himself. And so I've heard you talk a little bit about that. So, just talk a little bit about how we see fellowship in that way. Where fellowship began with God, the Trinity side of things.
Spiritually speaking, in our salvation, we're invited into fellowship with God. So, in the mirror, and we've taught this, teaching this a little bit on Sunday nights right now in Communion with God. This is a component of our Systematic Theology Open class where we talk about this too. But the perfect fellowship that God has within the Trinity, within the Godhead, between the Father, the Son, and the Spirit, perfect love, perfect joy, perfect peace, perfect harmony. So there's this perfection of fellowship, lacking nothing. We're invited into that fellowship. So we have fellowship with God, but the Scripture makes it clear that it's not just fellowship with God, it's fellowship with each other. So I say all that to say, for us as Christians, the fellowship is more than just we have a lot of superficial things in common. We live in the same area, maybe generally speaking, same kind of income bracket, socioeconomic status, political persuasions, those kind of things. Superficial similarities, but really what we're talking about is what does God do to knit us together? What makes us uniquely a people, and how do we enjoy that together? That's really the notion of fellowship. And so, that's why when we talk about fellowship, we're never just talking about an event or an activity. We're never talking about just a small group of people getting together where you have fellowship and that close-knit community. We're talking about we are God's people together. We are a church. We are a family. We are a flock. We are a fellowship.
Yeah, and I think that's why you can say what you said earlier, that there were things that Sunday night we saw that were towards what we would want to see in fellowship with the believers, and then there are things that maybe looked like fellowship because people were laughing and having a good time and having good conversations. So just talk about that a little bit more, about what you saw Sunday night, maybe some positive example, or something that might have hindered actual what we would say is biblical fellowship.
Let me sandbag a minute. I don't want this to be perceived as nitpicky. I'm not. I want to use this as a teaching opportunity, as an illustrative point. So let me say this at the beginning, Charles. On the one hand, I think real church fellowship has to be natural. I hate to use these sort of overused terms, a little bit cliched now. It does need to be organic. That doesn't mean that we can't facilitate it, that we can't do things that are good catalysts towards it. Like Sunday night, like, okay, we're gonna throw out a help here. We're gonna help all of you who are here to fellowship together. So that's really what we did. We gave an aid to fellowship, serving hamburgers and hot dogs and setting up tables and having Coke and chips and stuff like that. Those are aids to fellowship. That's not fellowship. So and I'm not opposed to that in any way. We need to do that. We need to help each other fellowship, and the church needs to catalyze itself for fellowship. But if that's the only time or our only experience of fellowship, then we probably are missing out on something.
Yeah.
That God intended. So I guess on the positive side, some of the things that I think we should see and say, that's good, that's healthy. I noticed this, and I mentioned this to somebody that I was talking with briefly at one of the tables. Man, isn't it cool to see all these kids running around here? And of course, the person I'm talking to is upper 60s, and I'm watching kids from 3 or 4 years old to 10 years old running around there. And of course, there's smaller ones too with their parents, and there was a lot in there.
Yeah, right.
And I thought, this is actually good. It's a little chaotic, but this is good. This is healthy. Look around here. This is the fellowship.
Yeah.
We're young and old. So I thought that was really good too. And I saw some good conversations happening with people who were different ages, different brackets, and some things that grew out of that. Some of our people are intentionally seeking people out. We had some guests there, first time there. Now that's a great litmus test for us as a church. How welcoming is our fellowship? I don't mean the event. I mean the people. We are the fellowship. How welcoming are we when we see somebody like, who are you? Why are you here?
Yeah.
How did you find out we were having hamburgers and hot dogs? How do we treat them? And so I think those things were good. I think some other good things, I'm just sort of spinning off the cuff, that people stayed, that they hung around for a while. Some people stayed even after the official part of it was done.
Right.
We had some people down at the Rock and some families down there playing, just doing stuff with the kids, and others were just hanging around talking. Those natural expressions of fellowship were really good. I think some of the downsides, I would say, one, well, we had good numbers, right? That was one of our issues, and then we had more people than we had planned for.
Right.
And so I think when the whole thing was finally over, we had 2 hot dogs left, and some bottles of water, maybe a few bags of chips. I don't know, but so we cut it super close on food. But at the same time, the attendance we have on Sunday, even though this is one of our best attended Sunday nights yet, maybe the best one yet since we re-began Sunday nights, it still is only a portion, not even half.
Yeah, not half of what was in that room that morning.
Yeah, 35%, 40% of the fellowship that regularly gathers.
Yeah.
So that's a bit disappointing that we haven't gotten to the point where we really value that. Here's some things that might feel a little bit more pointed. I see sometimes people will come in and they'll just fellowship in the verb sense, that we are a fellowship collectively, all of us, with the people they already know.
Yeah.
So I'm in a small group with these people, a Sunday morning life group, for instance. I already know them. I'll go sit at the table with them and we'll just talk. In that sense, what we do is not very different than if we were all sitting at a restaurant and I just go sit with my friends over there at that table. I don't know anybody else in the restaurant. I don't try to. But that's not, we aren't providing an alternative to a Sunday night restaurant.
Right.
The whole aim was to get around. So I think some of that intermingling is missed. I think some of the opportunity of where will this fellowship take me next is being missed. Like, okay, this is a catalyst to meet some people. What you going to do now?
Right.
Who are you going to invite to your house, or who are you going to try to get together with next week, or who are you going to try to have lunch with, or those sort of things. What does this lead to next? I think we will not have succeeded if the only thing it leads to is, hey, when are we going to do another one of those?
Right.
I want people to want to do another one of those, but I want them to be thinking about some other things. So I think to the degree that we welcome the newcomer or the outsider, to the degree that we intentionally seek out people we don't know, because there are a lot of new families here. And an opportunity like that, informal, sort of freestyle, this is a great chance to be proactive. You can go and introduce yourself.
Yeah, when you say, in some ways, to foster fellowship, it really has to be unstructured almost from that way. I mean, we, like you said, we give some catalyst events and things, but if we try to structure everything to get the church family, we actually probably do a bad job of that, or we cause it to be hampered and not do as well as it could do.
Yeah, and it just feels artificial.
Yeah.
If we have to assign it or create it or facilitate all of it, it doesn't feel legitimate. It doesn't feel like, man, those people are really my people.
Yeah.
And that's our aim. And so if you're a longtime Calvary person listening to the podcast today, we want you to begin shifting mindset from a sense of your people, or not just your life group people. Your people are all those people. There's new families that are coming, that newcomer who has only been here a couple of months, those younger people that you don't know anymore, don't know who they are, don't know anything about them. All those people, the whole span of things. Those older folks that have been here for a long time that you haven't made an attempt to meet because you're only in your own demographic group with other young families. We're your people. These are your people. How do we create that sense of fellowship?
Yeah, I know, and this has really been for the staff. Looking behind the curtain, I think the staff spends a pretty large amount of time trying to think through ways that we can give the church the opportunity to grow in community, to grow into fellowship. In fact, I just wrote down a little list as I was thinking about this today. What things have we done recently, say in the last couple of years, where we've really said, I hope this offers the church a chance to get to know one another, break outside those normal life group lines or just who sits by us in church, those kind of things. And here's some things that I remembered. So number one is we actually put extra time between life group and Sunday morning church. It used to be, from the time I've been here, which is a long time, it was 15 minutes.
Super
15
tight.
minutes. And everybody's coming out of life group, running right into church when it starts. And we made a conscious effort to add more of a buffer, 15 more minutes. So now we have 30 minutes. So that's something we actually thought about. We need to give the church more time to be able to walk around, greet one another, and do those things that would lead to some more relationship building.
Yeah, and then some of the tools we give for that are like down at the Rock now. I really love what we've done in the last year or so, a couple of years, in converting the Rock to fellowship conducive space.
Right.
So come down there and have some coffee. There are tables to sit at, there are chairs, there are groups of chairs. There's a lot of space just to mill around. The resource areas down there. So even if you don't want any coffee and you don't want a book or a T-shirt, that's where a lot of people are. It's just a good place just to connect, to hang out. And we try to do that at a crossroads of the church. That's one of our limitations is now over time, the layout of the facilities, we don't have like that central courtyard or that main common area or that big lobby, that sort of thing. So the area that we have that's somewhat of a crossroads because of so many small groups and things, is down there. So hopefully having people use them.
Yeah. Something other simple that we did was actually we stopped turning the lights off on people. You remember that? I mean,
oh, yeah.
Sunday morning, it used to be, you got 5 or 10 minutes after the church, and then we're going to start locking up and turning the lights off.
Yeah, somebody's going to be up there on that switch ready to turn them off. And yeah, the lights are going to be on until the last person's out the door.
Yeah.
And so if people want to hang around, and that's good. That's a good thing we've seen.
Yeah.
And that's always interesting to me. I think that's a measure of health for us. Even on a Sunday where I'm long-winded or the service goes long, whatever, I'm surprised sometimes. A lot of people just hanging out to talk, spend time together, and I think that's healthy.
I think also with our open class structure that we started a couple of years back, we intentionally put an introduction time in that, where we really want all the classes to come together and begin together, even though they may know where their classroom is already because they've been there. The whole point of that is to give a few moments to just say hello to people and to once again begin those conversations that you can start that you might not start other times when you go sit in rows in a classroom setting.
Right. Yeah. We've talked about this so much. Eventually, I hope it sticks. I hope it takes and sticks. But one of the secondary purposes, an important secondary purpose of those open classes is to, again, give opportunities like you're talking about. Primary, of course, is the teaching and to learn and to grow and to understand these things. The teaching is critical. But, like you said, the way we do these, even simple things folks could do, like on Wednesday nights, for instance, where we have the majority of our open classes, we always do those announcements, those welcomes, and everybody gives a little intro to their class. I know for people, sometimes they think that's not necessary. Like you said, when my class is up there, I go straight to it. But you're missing out on one of those big parts, hanging out with each other, talking to each other, greeting each other, meeting each other, just having the fellowship, acting on the fellowship together. And something simple you can do if you're one of those people listening, and we're sort of speaking to the choir on this subject. You're here every Wednesday, you hang out even if you don't need to hear the announcement or whatever. Come on the other side of the island.
Yeah.
That island where the coffee pots are and that sort of thing on Sunday mornings, and just that, that dividing sort of island. Come on the other side where the chairs and the tables are and where the area is not just standing by the doors and by the elevator. Come on in. come on in and hang out and fellowship a little bit. So, we've structured the time of those classes to include enough for that, and so you've got time. Let's plan on doing that.
Yeah, and then I think one of the biggest areas that we really focused on was the relaunch of Sunday night services for a few different reasons. I mean, all related to this fellowship, a few different things. So the first thing we did there is we decided to do it at 5 p.m. instead of 6 p.m. Now, of course, we did want to hopefully catch some more people that would feel more welcome to come at 5 because of the darkness, because of older people, and then also young families. But also in there, one thing you kept saying was hopefully people will take this opportunity to go out and eat afterwards and continue to have a time there together.
Yeah. I mean, again, we tried to set it up in such a way that it would be helpful for other things. Things you have to take the initiative on. But so, yeah, you're right. We wanted to include kind of both ends of the spectrum as far as age. So even though, unfortunately, now time will be changing soon. It'll be dark at like 2 p.m. But, we wanted people to be able to come who didn't like driving in the dark. We wanted young families to be able to come who'd like to put their kids to bed early because the next day's a school day. But, yeah, I mean, we're going from 5 to about 6:05. I mean, we're pretty tight on time usually. That's a great time for you to go have dinner with some people in your life group or some new people or some people that you just met on Sunday night. It's just a great opportunity for that. And here's something else I would say to kind of reorient our sense of fellowship on that. The fellowship doesn't just begin when you go out to eat or go sit down at the table or when we go over to the fellowship center. Everything that we're doing in there has fellowship in it. So you're coming in, you're talking, you're hanging out with people, but then you're going to pray together with those people. That's rich fellowship. That's the church really enjoying this relationship we have that Christ has made for us. We're going to sing together. We just like hearing each other sing. And we were talking about that today. How do we really encourage and increase that congregational singing? We're singing familiar songs, familiar hymns. We're singing more a cappella stuff, so we just listen to each other's voices. That's all fellowship. Listening to missions that we're supporting. So if you're hearing a mission report from a team of 7 or 8 people, you're in that. You prayed for them. You helped send them. Your giving is why they did what they did, and you're all part of this. This is all fellowship, and so all these things are part of that. And I think too, I'm not trying to be legalistic with folks or create guilt in them, but you're missing a component of good, healthy church life, church fellowship on Sunday nights if you're not there. You're missing just that less formal, that more personal, that engaging sort of. We're a church family together. We're singing together because we delight in the Lord. We're praying for each other because we care about each other. We're praying for that family that's just moving, that couple that's just having a baby, that person who just lost a spouse or parent. All those kind of things are happening all the time in there, and all that builds the fellowship.
Yeah, and I'd add one more to that is actually we give everybody now a list of birthdays. And the whole point of those birthdays is, number one, it's just nice to know whose birthday of the church. You can tell them happy birthday when you see them if it's a friend or anybody in the church. But also it's an opportunity for them to pray for everybody in the church. So you will get, in a year's time, you'll get everybody's name that hopefully, and that's a great way to build fellowship is to pray for one another.
Oh, yeah.
Just to know that name and pray for their needs and anything you know of them. I mean, what a great way to be able to build up the love we have for one another than to pray for each other.
And all of that is, we're trying to create this sense of community, who we are as a church, as a people. I was thinking about this the other day. Sometimes pastors do this. We get a little bit wistful about people who aren't here anymore and people who've moved on and that sort of thing. And in your more egotistical or proud moments, you think, man, don't they miss the teaching? Don't they miss the preaching that we do here? That sort of thing. But I would say this, based on just a lot of years of being in church life and church leadership, I think what's most, not just compelling that just draws people in, but what keeps people here, what has the greatest connecting power, is that sense of relationships. You can always get better teaching, or at least you can get good teaching in a lot of places. You can sit at home every Sunday and download good teaching. There's no we have nothing but a glut of good teaching and teachers available to us. Yeah. But what you can't replicate, you can't get this on your couch, you can't get this on your screen. And I think the healthier we are as a church, the more people realize, when I move, I can't take it for granted that I'm going to find it somewhere else so easily. And that's genuine community, a genuine sense. And I'm not talking about the 6, 8, 10, 12 people that I'm in a small group with. Yeah, that's part of it. I'm talking about this church family that I'm part of. And like you're talking about, as I pray for them, as I spend time with them, as I worship with them, as I serve with them, as I just hang out with them, I love them.
Yeah.
They love me. This is a real community of people that I belong to. Those are my people.
Yeah, and I think so. Sunday night is just key for that, and in so many ways that we've tried to just create that. And I guess for me the buzzword that I think of when I think of how do I be a part of this fellowship, and even for us as a church, is really the word intentional or intentionality. So when you think of that, Paul, what would you say to a member? What do you want them to be looking around to do? How do they do this well, as in get to love one another and create community with each other?
Well, let me use kind of an awkward illustration I was just thinking of as you mentioned that. So we were kind of joking in staff meeting today. We were talking about one of the events coming up. Zach and Children's Ministry has got a father and son's day, half day to spend together. And somebody joked in staff meeting, Paul, you need to take Daniel. And I said, yeah, I can see me bringing Daniel over there. And I said, go over there, go that group of guys, go make a friend, go play with them. Don't just stand here beside me. The kind of stuff that you would tell a kid, right, at a big event. Well, that's the same sort of stuff we need to do together. I don't want these events we do to help facilitate a healthier fellowship to become burdensome or like work, but at the same time, you got to be proactive. You got to be intentional about it. Go meet some people. And, you can do this without being awkward. You don't have to go to somebody and say, hey, are you new to Calvary? No, I've been here 10 years. No, you can say, hey, I don't think we've ever met, or I don't think you and I have ever really had a conversation. Yeah. There are a lot of ways to just kick that off. Tell me about you. Just talk to them a little bit. Spend a little time with us. Share something about yourself. Let them share something with you, and just meet them. Get to know them a little bit, and yeah, be intentional. Great opportunities. Look for these opportunities. And I will say this, Charles. We all need to be doing it, and of course, staff. We try to set the pace on this. But I look at, like, say, Wednesday nights, and some of our folks have been really good about inviting people, so I see new people coming into these classes and things. What I really want is I don't want people to just be like, overwhelmed or intimidated when they come in because everybody swarms on them, but I don't want anyone to ever fall through a relational crack. You show up on a Sunday morning, you got people that are going to go say, hey, I'm so-and-so. I don't think we've met, or whatever. There are ways to do it where it's not awkward. And do that on Wednesday nights, just being intentional about meeting those people. Or that person that you've seen for a long time, you just don't know their name. Yeah. You see them across the way. You see them in church sometimes. You see them going, and use this as an opportunity.
Yeah, and now I'll speak to some of the introverts who may be out there that this scares to death. There are all those people. I am one in some ways. You may not know that from a church perspective because I'm comfortable here. These are my people. I don't mind talking to anybody at any time. It's different than if I go to, say, an event. I don't know anybody. It's very difficult for me to start up conversations with folks. But I know we have that. We have introverts. And so one thing I would say to you out there, if you really, this just is like, I don't know if I can do that. One of the ways that I found an easy way to get involved or to get to meet people is to get involved. In other words, go serve somewhere. You don't have to go meet all the people if you go serve students. You're going to meet leaders and get to talk to them just because you're there. Same thing in preschool or going on a mission trip. So if you struggle because you're more of an introvert kind of person, I would say the best way to get over that, to be doing this getting to know the church family and fellowshipping, is just to find a place you can serve and get involved.
And think about how not to compartmentalize everything. Like, we did a fellowship. That was good. I enjoy that. When are we going to do another fellowship? Versus thinking about fellowship is not an event, not something I attend. This is who we are. We are a fellowship of believers. We have fellowship with God through Christ. We're a fellowship of believers because of the work of Christ for us. All these things are building that fellowship. So if it's serving with a group of guys on a Calvary Cares work day, fellowship is being built.
Yeah.
I'm not saying our purpose is fellowship. That doesn't mean we're just there to hang out and eat, but the fellowship is being built. And if I'm serving on a ministry team, if I'm over there working a long morning in preschool, fellowship is being built. A sense of togetherness is being built. And so, yeah, I think that's all good and healthy stuff. But that's how we need to think of it. What we don't want, and we've talked about this stuff so much, probably more internally than externally, but what we don't want is people to ever perceive of what we do primarily as an event, a show, a program. I go to church, I watch that, I listen to him, I listen to them sing, I watch them, and so I participate a little bit, and that's not primary. I mean, yeah. I'm not saying the the Word is not central to what we do, and worship is not the core of our gatherings. I'm simply saying, we do those things because of who we are, because we are a fellowship in Christ. So as a fellowship, we open the Word together. As a fellowship, we sing together. As a fellowship, we share resources and give. As a fellowship, we pray together. All those kind of things. But it's something that I am, not just something that I occasionally, go to, participate in.
And last thing, little thing on this, and I don't want to ask you about your trip to India, but I'm sitting here with the cards that we've dealt with the last couple of weeks and talked about the aims of being ambassadors in our four main quadrants, so to speak. And the first one is meaningful members, and really that's where this fits. I just want to read you what this sentence says underneath meaningful members. It says, "A meaningful member is a believer who is living in covenant community with his or her church family by worshiping with them regularly, loving them deeply, encouraging them personally, and guarding them in the faith diligently." That's what
if you're doing that, this would be a hard people to leave.
Yeah,
it would be a hard church to leave. You would think long and hard when you're considering a new job. You'd be thinking about this when you consider where you're going to buy a new house or move to a new neighborhood. Because this group of people would matter to you. I'm not saying. Again, we need to change sort of our perception of the words that we use. I'm not saying attending those church services, I'll miss that. Yeah, that's part of it, but I will miss my church. I will miss my people. I will miss those relationships. If we get to the point where that's common, typical, normal for us, I think the staying power will really increase. That back door that we talk about, where people are lost. I don't mean spiritually lost. I mean lost to us. Say people leave us. I think that gets very, very small and very challenging for people to go through because they don't want to. And I think the front door gets much wider because, man, I need that. I want that. We were talking about this Sunday. Sunday I was talking with somebody after service. Chuck Arney and I were sitting there talking. What is it that everybody wants? Chuck asked me, and the answer is love. People want to be loved. They want to be loved. They want a sense of harmony and peace. They want to find joy. Well, obviously God offers that to us, but we express that together too. We express that in our relationships with each other. Where is a place where I know people really care about me? And like you read in that statement, I want people to really hear that. To be loved means maybe sometimes I'm challenged or corrected or helped, but my life matters to somebody and other people's lives matter to me. So you get there, by definition, you've got real fellowship. Yep. And I would commend this to people. Again, we did this a while back, but the book, Compelling Community, I should have asked Justin. I don't know if we've got some more down the resource area.
We do. There are some down there, yeah.
Okay, look for the book, The Compelling Community. I will tell you, this has been one of the most beneficial church life, church health books I've ever read. I mean, I'm not exaggerating on that. This is so critical to us. This is part of our new elder training. To understand this type of church, this type of community. It's called The Compelling Community. Subtitle is Where God's Power Makes a Church Attractive. It's by Mark Dever and Jamie Dunlop, but we have some down there. If everybody adapted themselves to that and adopted that mindset, that'd be huge.
Yep, it would be huge for us as a church. All right, so tell me about the India trip. You're about to head off again to go see CV and the folks there. So what's your plan and the purpose here?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Planning it right now. There are a lot of details left to be done, but definitely be praying about this. CV is one of our partners in international work. He's not one that we probably spend as much time with or as much resources in, but still one of our partners there. So part of the benefit of going is I get to visit with CV and see some of the work that's going there, and I get to bring back information to the church on how better to pray and support them. So while I won't be visiting his ministry site in South India, particularly this time, we'll be visiting some other places along the way. But I'll be able to see what's happening there. They still have this huge challenge of supporting all of these displaced people from Manipur, from the civil conflicts of there. Really, which when I say civil, you have radicals that are running Christians out of their homes into the jungles, burning homes, et cetera. And a lot of those displaced people, particularly children, not all orphans, but some just displaced children with no homes. The ministry there, CV's ministry, has tried to take in. There's now some court cases about that, and it's become a very big challenge for them. But also get to visit some places where churches have been planted and visit some church planters, and try to encourage them. Speak in a couple of those churches. the primary purpose, and you won't see me posting this on social media while I'm there because technically speaking, this is not allowed. What I'm describing here, so I won't publicize these things on social media. I'll be going officially as a tourist because they're basically cut off to missions work now. Officially. Anyway, I'm going to get to speak in 4 different cities for church conferences for pastors. So the primary point is training, encouragement, pastors, and some of these will be pretty large. I mean, 300, 400, 500 people at each of these conferences. So hopefully I'll be able to be helpful, be beneficial to them, encourage them. There are a lot of sound Christians there, for sure. There's some, but there is also a lot of pastor leaders in places that really have no formal training.
Right.
Sometimes we've exported some pretty bad theology there. It gives a good opportunity to talk about sound theology and how we should view Scripture, how we should handle Scripture rightly, how we should approach the future. My theme for these conferences this year is our once and coming King. And so I'm going to talk about Jesus and what does it mean to be under the authority and rule and reign of Jesus, the kingdom here now, but not yet, that is still to come. And so living in light of the kingdom of Jesus. So I'm hoping that'll be beneficial. So we're doing a lot of travel. It's kind of fast paced. Bounce from city to city.
You love those little airlines, huh? Those are great little flights.
Yeah, it's one of those airlines. It's the first time I've ever sat on an airplane sitting in the back in the most economy section where the seats were just plain plastic. It was sort of it felt like a plastic chair, like in a church fellowship. Like, is this thing even connected? Like, there's no padding. It's just a thin plastic chair. But thankfully those flights are pretty quick and everything. And just getting used to the difference in India. Somebody asked me how they could pray for me. I said, I'll tell you what. The only anxiety I have, the primary anxiety I have, if that's the right word, going, like somebody said, are you not afraid to go there? No, I'm not afraid to go there. I said, but what I do get a little fearful, anxious about is riding in a car there. And that's hard to explain if you haven't seen it. I mean, maybe I'll take a video, like a GoPro video. But man, it's just craziness on the street sometimes. And you're saying, okay, God, my life is in your hands and I'm immortal until you say otherwise. I just don't want you to say otherwise today because it's a different kind of world when you got 1.5 billion people and all of them are outside at one time with their animals. It gets kind of crazy. But anyway, I'm just praying for some good results there, some good fruit, good conversations, good relationships to be developed there with some pastors and really to encourage them. So it's mostly just lots and lots of teaching.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of trips this month. October is a month full of, it's almost like the summer all over again.
Oh, yeah, we got Guatemala
and Vermont and your trip and then Brazil as well.
Yeah.
So 4 trips
going all over the
October.
place.
So
wow.
Just keep missions, praying for missions, pray for our partnerships all over the world. And that's why we say what we do at the end, and we will. So we'll see you next time at For God, for Dothan, and for the world.